adjusting the temperature, I do believe.
I think. But
It's like
Oh, jeez. That's got to be Ward 1 thing. Okay, Mr. Clerk, are we okay to start? Okay. I believe this is welcome to the Planning Committee meeting of Akron City Council. The first order of business will be to adjust the temperature, and I believe Mr. Clerk has done that. So rest assured that in about an hour or two it'll be warmer.
second the motion.
I would first like to entertain a motion that we accept the minutes of the last meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. The ayes have it. Very good. Today we have 3 items that are up for a public hearing, and to let everyone here know, the process is that what we will do is ask that you be sworn in by a representative from our law department. We will then get a report from when the public hearing begins for your specific conditional use request. And the planning department will make a recommendation to the committee. We will then open up the public hearing for comments from those that are interested. And then after that, the committee will then ask questions reference to the conditional use request. And then we will repeat that process again tonight at 7 o'clock, of which all of you are welcome to stop by at 7 o'clock tonight as well. However, the only difference is that tonight the committee will make a recommendation, not this afternoon, but tonight, make a recommendation either in favor, against, or to table the proposed conditional use request. So that's kind of like the procedure. So at this time, what we'll do is begin this, and I ask a representative from our law department to please swear in those that wish to testify before the committee in reference to the conditional use request. If you can please stand.
All right, please raise your right hand and answer in the affirmative. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is true to the best of your knowledge? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, very good. The first item that's up for a public hearing is an ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct the Harmon Court development on the north side of Vern Odom Boulevard and declaring an emergency. Mr. Antonucci.
thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. Akron Metropolitan Housing Authority is proposing the development of Harmon Court, which will consist of 2 total apartment buildings, one on each side of Harmon Avenue. The building on the west side of Harmon Avenue would measure 64 feet by 162 feet, contain 21 one-bedroom apartments. Due to the topography of that lot, the building's street frontage will contain 2 stories, but the rear of the property would be 3 stories with a walkout basement. The building along the east side of Harmon Court would measure 64 by 176 and would contain 10 one-bedroom and 8 two-bedroom apartment units. The 2-story buildings would be clad with a mix of horizontal or vertical fiber cement board, a mix of double monarch face brick, or econo-modular scored face brick row lock with asphalt shingled roofs. Staggered walls, roof lines, and other architectural details would provide visual interest. Vehicular traffic for either apartment building would enter through a cut and exit the southern end of the properties. Both properties would be amply landscaped. One goal of the Land Use and Development Guide Plan is to redevelop deteriorated residential areas by public and private means. Planning staff is of the opinion that the apartment development will be a vast improvement over the existing outdated apartment development. The existing private development is 12 separate 2-unit buildings, which contains a lengthy continuous curb cut along both sides of Harmon Avenue. The proposed 2 curb cuts along with angled parking along the street frontages will be more aesthetically pleasing and safer for pedestrians. While not limited to, the buildings will be more suitable for individuals or small families. Petitioner is also confident that the reduction in parking from the 59 required spaces to 43 will be sufficient. The proposed $9 million investment by AMHA would stabilize the Sherbondi Hill neighborhood by providing a modern, attractive development. Both Planning Commission and Planning staff recommend approval subject to conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Antonucci. At this time, I'd like to welcome anyone who would wish to speak in favor of the conditional use on Vern Odom Boulevard to please provide for the committee your name and address.
My name is Erin Whitehouse.
Press that red button on your speaker. There you go. Thank you.
Good. Go again?
Very good. Yes, please.
You're good, or?
Yes, please, if you can go again.
My name is Erin Wino. I'm here on behalf of the Akron Metropolitan Housing Authority, and we're located at 100 West Cedar Street in Akron. And I'm here to tell you more about Harmon Court. If I may approach, we did bring some elevations with us, and you can
Absolutely.
get a better idea of what it looks like. So what we are proposing is 39 one- and two-bedroom units here, and the intent is to receive project-based vouchers for these units. So they will be affordable housing, but it will not be public housing. Something that's unique at what we propose at this project is that there will be a community space in the west building. It will have kitchen space, and it will be accessible, have office space. And that's for the residents' use. All of the residents will be eligible to receive services through a coordinator that will be located in that location. So I think that will be, set it apart from other affordable housing developments in the area.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, very good, thanks. At this time, I'd like to open it up. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in favor of the conditional use request on Vern Odom Boulevard? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Hearing none. Is anyone wishing to speak against the conditional use request on Vern Odom Boulevard? Anyone against? Very good. Hearing none. Is there any questions or comments from any committee members? This time? Very good. Not hearing any. Any council members? Okay, very good. I'd like to welcome you back this evening at 7 o'clock, in which we'll conduct another public hearing.
Thank you.
Thanks. Very good. The second item is authorizing a conditional use to construct a detached garage at 98 North Rose Boulevard.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, Sam and Cheryl Freitag are requesting permission to vary the setback for a new detached garage in the side yard of their property. The previous garage was raised last year, and the petitioner is proposed to construct a new 20 by 20-foot garage in its place. Petitioner's request is that the 3 feet setback for an accessory structure be varied by 1.4 feet, so that the garage will be 1.6 feet from the north property line. This would allow the petitioner to have much greater and direct access to the garage from their driveway. Petitioner will also be able to maximize the space in their backyard. It would replace the previous garage, which is also set at this location. The new garage will help to enhance the viability of the property and the surrounding neighborhood, and both Planning Commission and Planning staff recommend approval.
Thank you, Mr. Antonucci. At this time, we'd like to welcome those that wish to speak in favor of the conditional use request at 98 North Rose Boulevard. Can you please provide first your name and address?
I'm Neil Wolf, Neil Construction Company, the company that would put up the garage, and this is Mrs. Cheryl Freitag, one of the homeowners.
Very good, thank you.
And we were basically talking about, as was stated, her old garage was in the same footprint, and we'd like to do 18 inches away from the property line because her driveway is a straight shot then into the garage instead of zigzagging towards the left, coming in the garage, putting the rear corner of the home in danger, and it's really a straight view from the street. We do have a letter of acceptance from the next door neighbor that this was impinged on. I have copies of the letter if the council would like it, and it's that simple.
Yeah, I think we would like a copy of that letter if you could, sir, for the record. Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you. Any other comments? You have?
He said it all.
Okay, good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in favor of this conditional use request on North Rose Boulevard? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak against? Anyone against this proposed garage? Very good. We'll open up the questions and comments. Any committee members have any questions or comments? Mr. Swirsky.
Yeah, I just want to thank Mrs. Freitag for the initiative she showed by bringing us this letter to demonstrate approval and cooperation with her next-door neighbor. And I just hope for other situations like this that we encourage people to provide documentation similar when there's neighbor butting up against neighbors. It's a good practice, and thank you.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? Very good. Hearing none. Mr. Antonucci, just I assume, as is typical, we go out and send this request to all departments throughout the city, and they are able to review this?
That's correct.
Yeah. And the fire reviewed it, and they're good?
Yes, we
Okay.
had no negative comments.
Okay, good. Just double checking. Thank you. With that, we'll now move on to the third item that is up for a public hearing, which is authorizing a conditional use to construct an apartment building at 2197 Eastwood Avenue.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, Dwight Yoder is proposing to construct a 7-unit apartment development on this property. The 7-unit apartment building would be centered on the .86-acre lot and set back 69 feet from Eastwood Avenue. The building would stand at an overall height of 35 feet. Each apartment building would be clad in stone and vinyl siding and blend with the condominiums and homes that surround the site. Parking for 14 vehicles, 2 per unit, would be provided within the attached garages. The property surrounding the apartment building would also be mounted and landscaped with trees, shrubs, and decorative fencing. The building meets or exceeds all development requirements for an apartment development. The stone-clad single-story ranch apartments should be an attractive and appropriate addition to this area, which transitions from retail uses at the Darrow Road, Eastwood Avenue intersection to apartments and condos, then to single-family homes to the east and south. The goal of the Land Use and Development Guide Plan is to promote a variety of new housing types and price ranges to meet the requirements and desires of the city's population. Both Planning Commission and Planning staff recommend approval, subject to conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Antonucci. At this time, we'll open it up to comment. Any of those that are wishing to speak in favor of the conditional use request on Eastwood Avenue is welcome to comment. Can you please provide for us your name and address?
Yes, I'm Reed Richens, architect, 5189 Park Drive, Medina. I'm here with the owner, Dwight Yoder, and as you see, we have some materials I'd like to present. We agree with the summary provided by Mr. Antonucci. We appreciate his and his staff's help during this process. With your permission, I'd like to come up and point out a few of the particulars.
Thank you.
As mentioned, it's a 7-unit apartment complex. We've paid particular attention to buffering. We've also reduced the footprint of the building to provide more buffering and more green space, even though, as noted, it already complied with all the applicable planning requirements. It's a 1-story rental project. It's intended to fill a niche for older residents who would like to remain in the city of Akron and have this housing type available to them. One issue that came up during Planning Commission review was a stormwater easement, and Attorney Dean Constant is here and prepared to address that issue.
Hello, my name is Dean Constant, and I'm located at 106 South Main Street.
No, it must have been on, sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Dean Constant. I'm an attorney. I'm located at 106 South Main Street here in downtown Akron. Dwight got me involved with this matter sometime subsequent to the initial Planning Commission hearing because apparently there was an issue regarding the easement rights for the water flow from this particular parcel into a retention pond. So what I did was I searched the records and determined there was a recorded easement from Robin Ridge to Mr. Phillips, the owner of this parcel. I then proceeded to confirm it with Kingdom Title Agency, received a title commitment, and I also have an affidavit from Jim Berry, who is the legal counsel for Kingdom Title. And I have these documents for the panel's use if they want them.
Very good, thank you.
We'd be pleased to respond to any questions the committee has.
Thank you, thank you. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in favor of the conditional use request on Eastwood Avenue? Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Frank Pelk, Ravenna, Ohio. I'm recently retired from the University of Akron after 34 and a half years. So during my tenure there, I have certainly seen the city and its ups and downs, and I'm truly happy with the way I see that the city is now rebounding. My wife and I are considering downsizing, and looking at this complex, we see many features that would be just super for senior people. That being it's handicap accessible, everything's on one floor. The kitchen layout is user-friendly. That is the sink and the stove and refrigerator. So the other thing that I was looking at was the utilities. It's very energy-efficient apartments, and now that I'm going to be on a fixed income, energy costs are something that must be considered. One of the unique features, too, is the mudroom. There's not very many apartments today where you find a mudroom. I'm sure some of us here had grandparents that had the old homes, and they all had mudrooms, and it's a very practical thing. Again, the complex itself has a sunroom that's year-round accessible, two-car garages. There's a lot of unique features about this particular complex. In addition to that, as far as it being close to numerous stores, there's not a lot of traffic out that area of town. And, one of the things I don't want to be dealing with is a lot of traffic. So I want to compliment the Chamber on your hard work and commitment, and I hope that someday soon that, to be into a complex like this to where you and I and others can enjoy such a wonderful complex. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in favor of the conditional use request on Eastwood Avenue? Anyone else in favor? Anyone? Okay. Anyone wishing to speak against the conditional use request on Eastwood Avenue? Anyone wishing to speak against? Anyone? Hearing none, we'll close the public comment portion. Is there any questions or comments from any committee members at this time? Hearing none, Mr. Hope.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I spoke with Mr. Yoder about this project, and I've had conversation with Mr. Antonucci 2 or 3 different times concerning it. And thank you all for coming down today. I appreciate coming in and bringing all the information in with you. Mr. Yoder owns some property and some apartments just to the east of here. Very well taken care of, very appealing, and has not had any problems or anything that has come about from being a property owner and a person that has rental property. I think that this is a good idea for this parcel. I would much rather see these apartments come in rather than spreading the retail further down the street and across the street from other residential, single houses that are there. So I think it's a good fit. I think that it'll be good for the area and the neighborhood, and as the council representative, I'm in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hope. Thank you. Any other questions or comments from any council person? Sims?
I was just curious what average cost would be. Let me preface this by saying I appreciate the whole idea of keeping in mind the need to have our seniors still integrated in the community. I thought that was really a nice touch, but I'd be interested in knowing what the average cost of each unit would be.
There'll be rental units, and the expected monthly rental will be around $1,100.
$1,100. Is that utilities included or just?
No, I think utilities would be separate. This would be the rental cost.
Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Very good. Hearing none. Again, I'd like to invite you back this evening at 7 o'clock. We will then conduct another public hearing and make a recommendation. Thank you. And with that, we'll move on to the balance of the agenda, of which I'm going to recommend time, and we'll move on to the new list of legislation. Item number 1 is ordinance authorizing the transfer of city-owned property to Akron Public Schools in exchange for property owned by Akron Public Schools. Anyone here on this item?
Hello, Chairman, Committee. I just spoke with Mr. Hardy. He was supposed to be presenting, but he has been detained, so I will do my best to fill in.
Okay.
So this is the first step in executing the cooperative agreement that Council approved about 2 months ago. This is the city-county APS land swap, where we are acquiring the Perkins school site as well as the Crosby school site in exchange for property on 10 North Main, which is the SumaCare facilities parking. So the school will be giving us those two sites, and we'll be giving them that property. Obviously, they're also purchasing the SumaCare facility for their new administrative offices. So happy to entertain any questions.
Very good. And I see attached is the exhibit is the actual meets and bounds
Yes.
description of the land itself.
Correct. And then there's also the real estate agreement is attached as well, so that sets out the terms of that swap.
Very good. Is there a rush on this item?
I believe there is, yes. I think the APS just passed their part of this deal, and I am told that it is time sensitive.
Oh, very good. Questions or comments? We did previously approve the initial agreement.
Correct. You approved the cooperative agreement that set out all the terms. Again, we were transparent at that time, saying that our plans for the Perkins site is residential development. That will all come before you again before that is finalized. So our plan is to work with Alpha Phi Alpha, but that will come before you again before anything's done.
Right.
This is just to allow us to acquire the property from APS and allow us to give them the 10 North Main property in exchange.
This is actually authorizing the transfer of our property to Akron Public Schools.
Correct.
And specifically, this is the parking area.
Right. So the former SumaCare building right on the corner, there's all that parking behind it. And we gave you guys maps when it came for you, and we can give you copies of that again if you'd like. That parking area would be what APS is acquiring from us, and we get Perkins and Crosby in exchange.
Exactly.
And they were appraised to be of equal value. That's why we actually are getting the Crosby site, because Perkins they weren't exactly valuable, the 10 North Main and Perkins, so the Crosby site kind of made that all work out.
So equal value.
Correct.
In terms of this exchange.
Yes, so as long as the two entities agree that they're...
I would, if we can get a hold of those maps,
Yeah,
that
I'll
would be
have
good.
them emailed to you.
Even though I
in the
know
process.
we've seen them before, but
yeah.
that'd be good. Further questions or comments? a recommendation for suspension of the rules? With a favorable report?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. The ayes have it. Very good. Item number 2 is repealing ordinance number 306, 2003, passed by this council on June 9th, 2003, authorizing the mayor to execute a release of mortgage.
So this is actually part of that same transaction. So there was previously a TIF ordinance passed for the 10 North Main parking lot, which is what we're transferring to
Right.
Akron Public Schools. The Akron Public Schools are exempt from property taxes, so we could not continue to, acquire TIF from that property anyway. So this is just a formal way of releasing that property from that TIF agreement. So even if we didn't do anything, there would still be no TIF funds coming in because APS does not pay.
Exactly right, they're
taxes.
exempt.
Correct.
So this is a zero-sum gain,
Correct. And we
for them especially.
Yeah, and I'm sure you guys are very familiar with how TIF works. The first 10 years are the most lucrative. We get the most of the TIF payments then. Those TIF payments decline. After that, we've already gotten the full first 10 years, so we got most of the funds we ever planned to get from that property already. And obviously, the other option is it sits vacant and we get nothing, so. The best option is to have that property occupied, being useful, having that, those downtown businesses be able to gain from those employees, so this is the best case scenario.
And the TIF was referenced the parking area again.
Correct.
For that area. Very good, and this is releasing that. Okay, very good. Further questions or comments? Yes,
And I believe it was the SumaCare building itself as well.
Okay, Mr. Neal. Oh, and reference probably the utilities. Mr. Neal?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a question. I know you stated that we got the majority of the TIF financing. So what is the, out of what we could have expected, what's the financial impact from that?
I will have to get economic development to run those numbers. They put out charts when they first do the TIF to say what they anticipate receiving down the road, so I'll have to have them pull that and we'll provide that to you guys.
Okay, thank you.
Good, balance on the
Yeah,
TIF.
absolutely.
Right.
But
Very
again,
good.
it's not like right now it's doing us any good.
Yeah. Any further questions or comments? Yes, Ms. Sims?
So is the financing just on the parking lot, or is it on the SUMA building too?
Again, I apologize for not being totally in the know.
I'm pretty
I
sure
will-
the TIF
yeah.
would be on the building because the parking lots were owned by us.
So I thought we own we own the parking lot.
Correct.
So we're not, the building they're buying directly from SUMA?
I don't believe SUMA owned it. I'm not sure who the,
I think SUMA leased it.
I
and
think they, yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
not sure
yeah.
who the actual owner is.
And
But
that would
it's a
be an
private
agreement
owner.
that would be between the owners and APS, I do believe. Correct?
Yes,
But the thing of it is that the TIF portion of this, and again, we're going to need to see a map
yes.
and also get an answer for Mr. Neal's question, but
So I guess-
oftentimes what happens is and this is releasing that, the mortgage piece for the TIF, but that's in support of the, like sidewalks or underground utilities or what have you. So we do need to get that answer.
Yeah, another thing that to keep in mind is even if the parking is owned by the city, if it's not public parking and it's privately used, it's not exempt from property taxes.
Okay.
So it was being used as private parking even though the city retained title.
This may be getting down into the water, but on who was the TIF agreement with? Was it with SUMA or was it with the corporation that owns the building?
It would have been with who owns the building.
So do they still own the building?
I believe they do. They're working right now with APS to sell it to them.
To sell the building
Yes,
outright to them?
to
So-
APS.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, thank
So
you.
APS will then own their parking and their building together.
Is there a rush on this particular piece as well, or would the consent agenda be okay?
I think this one could probably wait a week, yeah. So if you guys want to put it on consent, we can make sure all those questions are
Yeah,
answered.
if we can get everything answered, and then if we have more questions, we can come back next week and ask. Mr. Neal?
Just for GP, if we could also know exactly who owns the building?
Oh, we will. I'll get that for you as well.
Thank you.
Very good. Further questions or comments? Very good. Hearing that, is there a recommendation for consent agenda? Is there a second? second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. The ayes have it. Thank you. I don't believe there's anything else to come before the committee, so we are adjourned. Thanks.